I'm just gonna make sure I guess beginning of every stream starts with making sure that it's actually streaming. Um, but okay, yeah, I guess we can get started. For those of you who have never joined before, this is Web3 Unleashed, where basically every week we drop like weekly nuggets of various information about all things Web3, build to adapt together. This week, I'm really excited. We have part of the consensus family together here. So this is the MetaMask team. I believe Guillaume, you just recently got a haircut, especially for this live stream. So you are looking very good.
Thank you.
Um, and Eric, always sharp as ever. Uh, Before we begin, I just want to apologize for my house. I just moved, so there's lots of boxes. But that's not relevant to learning. That's just me feeling embarrassed. But okay, let's get started. So I guess if you guys can, please introduce yourselves.
Sure.
Starting with Eric.
Yeah. So I joined the MetaMask team back in January of 2022 as the DevRel manager. Kind of a new thing at MetaMask back then was kind of segmenting DevRel into the MetaMask team. And since then, we have I kind of started as an individual contributor, but now putting together a team of DevRels, and Guillaume is one of our first kind of DevRel / DX engineers / engineer. And I'll let him talk about himself, but yeah, that's me. I've been in web development for 20 years and Web3 for about a year and a half.
And yeah, on my hand, I joined, I think, last month. So this is my second month at MetaMask. I was beforehand in the Web2 world. So like at MetaMask, I'm focused on developer experience. So this is most of my background in the last few years. I work at a company called Vercel, the authors of Next.js, and I spent a lot of my time there making sure that enterprise customers were having a good time, that they were taken care of. And my goal now at MetaMask is, as Eric said, mostly on developer experience to make sure that everybody knows what they can use, that it's fun to use, and that this is an ongoing conversation with the users, basically, of the developer stuff at MetaMask.
Yeah, I am really excited, I think, to have these two on. I mean, not because they're part of like MetaMask, which is super cool, but the depth of web development experience they have can offer is like so much bigger than, that I've ever experienced in my life, which is saying a lot. But yeah,
Nice.
today we are here to talk about the MetaMask API and SDK. I do want to know, I see a question in the audience. We will be taking questions. Well, the questions will always be there, but we will be answering them at the end. So I think to segue, first off, I just want to know, can you guys explain a little bit about what the API is?
So the MetaMask API?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the easiest way to kind of describe the MetaMask API is when you want to trigger MetaMask from your dapp without a smart contract transaction or something like that, then you are going to be connecting or basically sending requests over to MetaMask through a JSON RPC API. And one way to kind of find out what all those methods are is to search for MetaMask API Playground. But there are all these different Ethereum and wallet kind of methods that you can do, anything from maybe getting the current chain ID to adding a chain or switching your user over to a new chain, and all sorts of different wallet and Ethereum based methods. But that MetaMask API is basically all of those methods. It is a JSON RPC server underneath the hood. But I think MetaMask kind of makes it a little bit easier to work with. Basically, just send over a request, you tell it what method you're trying to use and any parameters, and then it sends you a request back. So it's just like a regular API from like Web 2. That's how I think of it, or at least I try to approach it originally. And then over time, I kind of try to learn more about like what makes JSON RPC a little bit different than a regular API. But
Okay. That's an awesome point. I think there's a lot of beginners out here just stepping into the world for the first time. JSON RPC is literally like an entire acronym. Like, can you guys maybe give a brief overview of it?
yeah, I mean, I can start, and if Guillaume has anything he wants to chip in, that's fine as well. So JSON RPC is like the technical definition is like a transport agnostic remote procedure call
This is
that
unhelpful.
uses, but basically it
Yeah.
uses the JSON data format that most developers are super familiar with. So basically kind of what that means is you're sending requests over kind of in a JSON format when typically dealing with a JSON RPC API. MetaMask does do it a little bit different to where they just ask you to send over the method and like the parameters, and they kind of construct all that behind the scenes. But basically, when you're communicating with a JSON RPC server, you're again sending JSON despite how the server was built or with what language it was built in. So it's super convenient. It means kind of no matter what we send over, whether it's HTTP, WebSockets, or something else like Pony Express, like however you want to send it through mail, whatever. We're always sending JSON. Don't try to send it through the mail, but we're always sending JSON, which, like I said, is super approachable to developers. And I think kind of like one of the things that I would kind of mention here is like if you're getting started with Web3, like you said, a lot of people are, and you're building on the dapp layer. I think the most important topics to understand are JavaScript, TypeScript, Web2 concepts, because a lot of those are transferable, smart tracks, and then JSON RPC. So just kind of learning about all those things and learning more about JSON RPC. When it comes to MetaMask, like a lot of the methods that we have are kind of derived, and they're there because of EIPs or Ethereum kind of improvement proposals that were kind of created, and then we kind of implement them through our API. And I don't know, Guillaume, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Maybe just like a bottom line is that everything we're mentioning here, when you're building a dapp, it is the stuff that you use, in your daily building. So when you want to interact with your dapp, such as connecting your wallet or sending a transaction with a smart contract, everything that you're doing is what we've mentioned. So we're mostly putting in words on the things that people are using and building daily with MetaMask. And we try standard as possible so that we follow the standard, as you mentioned, the JSON RPC standard. That's what I wanted to add.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Usually I would ask something like, what's the value of it? Like, what is it if it didn't exist? But I think the answer is pretty much like your dapp just doesn't exist without the API is kind of the
Yeah, like if the MetaMask API didn't exist, then you wouldn't be able to connect to MetaMask. But JSON RPC is kind of a standard, and I think where the value comes out of using JSON RPC, and people have suggested other ways for sure, but like it's JSON. So yeah, like I came from like a JSON database company before this. I'm like super like pro JSON and and before that in the Web2 world, I worked with a lot of regular databases and had to do so much work in order to get information from my client over the server and get it fitted into the database. And so I like JSON everywhere. I put it on my
yeah.
cornflakes.
Yeah. Okay, I kind of want to note, we talk about it a lot. Really excited. Our dapp that we will be doing together is leveraging the MetaMask API. So I think when that comes around, we can dive a little bit deeper into it by actually looking at the code. Moving forward, I guess, into like the wide world of what MetaMask offers for developers. I've heard something about like MetaMask Flask. I don't no, I heard about it today, essentially, is what it is. Can you touch on it a bit?
Yeah, I think to talk about MetaMask Flask, you kind of talk about snaps a little bit, and I'll kind of try and address them both maybe. So MetaMask Flask is a development build with all the latest features of MetaMask that our engineers are working on. So if anyone's ever heard of like Chrome Canary, or like the nightly Chrome builds, like this is how you can kind of get a version of Chrome that has like all of the latest stuff in it, right? And there's lots of other analogies in software to that, but Flask is a development build of MetaMask. You can install it from the Chrome store. It has a nice little purple logo instead of an orange logo, so that if you're using it, you know which one you're using. And its first biggest feature that it kind of has is MetaMask Snaps. And although I know we don't have enough time to deep dive into Snaps, that would be like a whole nother conversation, but this is a feature in MetaMask that would allow you to extend the API and functionality that's not yet available in MetaMask proper. And you can potentially build things like password managers and wallet account recovery tools, cross-chain compatibilities, and key management features so that you can manage Bitcoin or Filecoin or these other things. And the way that works is you have a dapp, you have your users install a snap. A snap is like an extension or a plugin to MetaMask. It's got a lot of power. It puts the power into the hands of MetaMask contributors and builders, and potentially lets them build things and not have to wait on us to build them, if it fits into like that category of what a snap is.
Yeah, no, it is definitely super cool. I know recently we built like a StarkNet snap, so you can use MetaMask with
Yeah.
StarkNet now.
And
But
snap's a great name too. Like it makes sense. Like it snaps into place. Like, right? It's like a plugin or a piece of the
yeah,
puzzle.
yeah. Okay, so let's actually move to the next step of what this is kind of titled in all of my tweets. MetaMask SDK, right? What is
Sure.
it? How do we use it? Yeah.
Well, if you want it, so by the way, Guillaume was one of our first beta testers, so I definitely want to give him the ability to talk about it. But basically, if you want to use SDK right now, the best way to do that is to DM me on Twitter so that I can get you involved into the beta. But
This
it's
is a crypto culture right here.
also, like, developers that we've worked with in the past, we've reached out to them and got them on board. But it's a set of libraries that are currently in beta for mobile, like React Native, Android, iOS, desktop, think Electron, gaming, think Unity, and then web and server apps, so Vanilla.js, React, and Node.js. And, can be installed by devs in their projects. It enables like a dapp to automatically guide their users to easily connect with a MetaMask wallet client. And I think the most important thing to note is that it returns an Ethereum Web3 provider. So devs already use that. We'll use it today in our app. And so existing dapps should work out of the box with SDK. We actually had a guy on our team who has an Astro type game, and he updated to use the MetaMask SDK. It was super simple. But like Guillaume, what are your kind of opinions on the SDK? I know that you have dabbled around with it a little bit and part of our beta.
What I can say is that I think just to make the difference between why we have what we call the MetaMask API and why we have this SDK is that the MetaMask API, it's broad. Like you can do anything from submitting transactions, as we mentioned, but sometimes when I've built mints, I've built stuff for customers in the past and side projects, and while I'm good with the MetaMask SDK, there's a learning curve to it. So I think that's also where the SDK comes in. You're losing a little bit of the of the strength of doing everything, but it comes with batteries included. So I think this for me was a nice part when I joined the beta, is that I don't have to worry about learning all of the methods, learning all of the JSON RPC terminology. So, but you still have access to it. So this is where the SDK was really fun to use when I was able to do this beta. I've been looking for this for a long time as building dapps, something that is just well done, and it's looking good. I'm excited when we'll be able to share it a bit more.
Yeah, okay. Sounds like there's some like pros and cons, right, between using
Sure.
it and not using it. Can you elaborate on that?
I think without the SDK, you have kind of a couple of options, right? You can like being opened in the in-app browser, being open outside of it, and using like Wallet Connect might be something that you would use instead of the SDK. You might build your own React component library that does something similar to the SDK. In fact, Guillaume did just that. He has a nice little tool that kind of, he had to do all of the work in order to build something like the SDK so that someone else could import that into the React application and kind of not have to worry about setting up a side nav and like displaying the information from the wallet and being able to switch chains or be able to tell a component like, hey, I'm going to be using these 3 chains right here, and I want to give the user an option of using those 3. So you could do that with the SDK. Without it, you have to build that stuff yourself using the MetaMask API.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I guess something I was trying to tease out whether or not this was true is like without the SDK, you do have like a degree of more flexibility. Is that correct? But we are building out the SDK. What I'm really trying to do here actually is Guillaume said something about like we're improving it, and I want alpha on how you're improving it. But I know we didn't agree to this question, so feel free to say NDA. Guys, get excited. Download MetaMask.
So I think I can answer a little bit on there. Like when you're using the API, you do everything. So like it is good, you got the power, but everything is custom built. Like you need to put event listeners, you need to connect things to your application. So what I meant is that the SDK improves on the developer experience on there, because some people will want that level of control, but some people who will focus on just building. This is where the SDK improves it a lot. And I did see somebody asking if you can still use Coinbase or something else. You can still use other solutions in parallel. So yes, does that answer your question about like what it is improving? Or I'm not sure if I
I
missed
mean,
the point.
it answers what I'm improving, but I was also just saying, give me alpha because you hinted at you are improving.
I think a few
Oh,
other
But
things left
you,
to come are just making sure that we're covering all the different ways of using the SDK. So right now you can use it with like web apps and gaming like Unity, but we still need to get the libraries ready for mobile. But I know Guillaume wanted to give you a little bit better of a direct answer on what you're asking.
so just in all, like the SDK, it's almost feature complete. So like there's a lot of stuff already in there. It's mostly polishing and giving people more options. So I think that the reason why it's not launched yet is that, like an SDK is something that you want to be backwards compatible. So the choice you make in your first release are important because you're going to support them for a long time, and we don't want to forget users in the future and introduce too many breaking changes. So what the alpha of what we're improving is basically stability, making sure it runs well, making sure that your dapps can rely on it and not break. This is something important when releasing software.
I'm so thankful
Something
for
I'm really
that.
excited about the SDK that like they're making available is like the idea that you can use the SDK in like a Node.js app. And I'm still struggling on finding kind of like the greatest use case for that. But like it's exciting, I think, to know. Like it's somewhere I haven't thought about using MetaMask and being able to trigger MetaMask and do things with MetaMask. But it seems like that's a really cool kind of option for developers. Like we want to be able to give people the ability to use MetaMask from all of these different platforms, and polish it and give it a nice UX and everything too. So
Okay, cool. So what I also teased from that, and correct me if I'm wrong, SDK is not released yet, so people watching the stream wouldn't be able to use it.
yeah,
Okay,
we're
cool.
comfortable letting them know it's out there, and that if they really want to help us test it out, like they can get a hold of someone like me, HTTP junkie on Twitter. But yeah, like I think that we'll see it for sure before the end of the year, and that will be like we want to be able to talk about it at some of the conferences we're going to, and it's getting there.
Okay, cool. That sounds good. I guess kind of we have like 40 minutes left for like a pretty complete dapp. But before we start, Guy, you said you worked at Vercel. So this is not a Next.js stream, but if you could just give like a high level of like why it's awesome, what's making it better,
Sure.
like why is the industry trending?
So, like in the Web3 industry, we've been building mostly the main stack on the Web3 has been create React app with the smart contract and you interact directly with it. That stack is good, but there's also like the whole of web development has been moving a little bit back to the server gradually. And in Web3, this is something that you must be careful because a server introduces a level of centralization. But why Next.js is fun is that it allows you to have a similar development experience to create React app, but with much better performance. As Next.js is able, to do the standard React application, but it's also able to run it on a server so that it doesn't depend on your user's browser to do the heavy work and the heavy lifting. So Next.js is a combination of features that really right off from the start, you're going to get performance, good search engine optimization. You can deploy your app closer to your users on something we call an edge network, which is just basically a server close to your user. So the reason why I wanted to also introduce like using Next.js in this stream is that it's not as easy as create React app, but there's so many awesome benefits that if you cross that bridge, you won't look back. And I think something to take note is that many of the biggest Web3 companies are using it. Many are Vercel customers, and it gives such a better UX. We've seen really bad user experience in the past. So this is a little bit why I want to talk about it and give people the confidence to build on it, basically.
Okay, cool. Thanks for answering that question. Before I go into the audience questions, is there anything you guys just want to touch on or closing thoughts?
No, actually, I was looking at some of the audience questions, and there's some good ones in there. Unless Guillaume has something.
I do have one. One thing I'd like people to know that we're really working like hard on making developer experience awesome at MetaMask. It is like we're working on our foundations to really make sure we service everybody. So this is like one of the first streams we're doing, and we will be out there much more in the future as we build our team. As Eric said, this is a fairly new team, so just wanted to say we're excited for reaching out to people and doing stuff like this.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so we'll get into the audience questions. Thanks, guys, for being patient. So this first one is not about MetaMask at all, which makes me incredibly excited because I am the truffle developer advocate. Yes, I'm not entirely sure if you mean like interacting with a web UI, but at least for I guess a good user experience for finding your web, your ABI. There's this, I don't know if you've used our, you call it the Visual Studio Code extension, but that's like really focused on taking the development cycle into an actual UI. I'm not sharing my screen. I always forget to do this. Okay, cool. Let's open up this one, I guess. So I'm in my truffle folder. I guess to view the ABI, let me just deploy to the girly network.
I use the same password, ...
Nice. Okay, the deploy failed. I don't know why this happened. Sorry. Truffle.
Oh, I see. So it's got the Explorer, the dashboard, the networks, and everything there. That's really cool.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay, it deployed here. You can see it. But I guess
is this all integrated in VS Code? Like everything you're doing here is like you can explore everything in VS Code.
Oh, it's so freaking cool. You can open these up. You see the ABI here. It's really
That's so
convenient just
nice.
for like copy paste. Yeah, I don't know. Do I keep plugging more? Like there's a visual debugger, we're integrating security, like fuzz testing with diligence. I think there's an Infura integration coming up or some sort. I don't know. There's a lot of alpha that I always say, and then I don't remember which one's correct. But okay, yeah. So dashboard I deployed. Like I said, it is in right here, and you can find them, and it'll update. That's what I mean
Nice.
by
And are
UI. There's nothing, I guess, truffle UI related for actually like getting the functions. You know, when you like connect with your like grab the ABI in your JS code and then actually call smart contract functions. If that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense. But yes, I hope that answered your question.
Can I say that, like, in the virtual hallways here at Consensus, like, these are things that we're talking about and trying to figure out, like, how the various teams can come together to kind of make all this work better together. And I think that people will see a lot of improvement and work around the things that people are bringing up. And there's like
Yeah.
two specific questions that I know we're talking about already.
Yeah. I mean, I just also want to point out in terms of the MetaMask truffle love story, if you guys know about transaction insights on MetaMask, that is completely powered by Truffle Decoder. So taking that hex data and then just making it machine readable. And there's more alpha there too if you want to watch my Berlin talk. But that's fine. Okay, just keep going. This guy I think was laughing at the fact I said JSON RPC. Um, Caleb was so kind as to describe the acronym. Uh, I guess this is a question for you guys. MetaMask API constructs the request question, and then the follow-ups are like kind of with an SDK, kind of like an SDK. You guys did, I guess, touch briefly on the difference, but maybe rehashing it.
Yeah, so I would implore people to go to search Google for MetaMask API Playground. And what you can do there is you can go and look at all of the various functions and what it takes as parameters and what the result is. So for instance, Guillaume and I were using, what was it? What was the one that we used yesterday? But it's like, well, the
watch asset, I think.
yeah, watch asset. So the response is a simple Boolean, right? But each one has a different response and takes in a different set of parameters. Sometimes it takes no parameters. Sometimes it takes multiple parameters. But all of that can be found kind of through that MetaMask API playground, and all the methods that make up our API are included there. You just kind of drill into each one of them, and you can get all the information you need. I would not say that the API is like an SDK, which someone asked, but it is the API and all the methods in which you use to connect, trigger MetaMask, and do things with the Ethereum blockchain through some type of a node or provider, which default uses Infura, but you can set to anything you want.
Yes, I do want to plug if any of you guys are coming to DevCon, I guess next week, October 14th, Consensus Connect. I believe one of our workshops is gonna be on the MetaMask playground. So I mean, I guess you guys won't be there, but it'll be another MetaMask representative.
I think it's Zach. Yeah.
Okay, maybe Zach. If not, you can pretend his name is Zach.
Yeah.
Cool. I guess moving on. This one, I guess, was asking about MetaMask Snap, maybe for extensions.
Extensions, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, snaps. We covered snaps pretty well in the fact that you can just think of it as the ability to extend MetaMask API and functionality. It is, in a sense, it's a plugin to your MetaMask extension in the browser, but they also, will make snaps available for MetaMask Mobile. I'm not sure if that covers it, or if I'm even answering that correctly, considering what they're asking.
I'm not sure, but That was good for me. This is a suggestion. Execute transaction with the current state. Show the results of the transaction before. Do transaction insights come before the transaction is executed or after? Do you remember?
Oh, it's a good question.
It
I don't know.
does. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that
I think
Truffle's keeping you safe, guys. Remember that. And Decoder, actually, I just want to quickly plug, is a separate package. It has
Yeah.
nothing to do with your actual smart contract development lifecycle. So if you're just trying to use it for, I guess, verification of stuff, you can. So let's moving on. You touched upon this, Eric. I guess if you just want to repeat your answer.
Yes. So you could think of the MetaMask SDK similar to something like Wallet Connect, although there's overlap there. There are also differences. But if you can connect, like, Wallet Connect gives you the option of connecting to MetaMask or other wallets, and SDK aims to do the same.
Okay, cool.
In
This
that.
is spicy. Who is our competition?
So I can say, yeah, this was one of the questions I thought that was interesting. So what is a competitor, I guess, to the MetaMask API? And that would be any other wallet's API. So for instance, Rainbow Wallet has an API, right? Coinbase Wallet has an API. As well, like these different wallets kind of do things very similar. So it makes it somewhat easy. I'm sure things will get better in the future for a dapp developer to be able to display one single UI that they build for any wallet that you connect to. I'm sure that there's some gotchas in there, but and as far as the SDK, I would say the competitor, less of a competitor because we work very closely with them and we're not trying to replace or, but yeah, there's a lot of overlap with something like Wallet Connect.
Yeah, awesome. And then
And we love the Wallet Connect people, and we love other wallets too, most of them.
I think the next one was just me trying to answer because I didn't know we were going to answer. So just to elaborate on this, like there's also other libraries that do similar stuff to the SDK, like WAGMI hooks in React, but the SDK is also working really nice in vanilla JavaScript, Svelte, Angular. It is agnostic to framework. So I just wanted to plug that also for the SDK.
Yep.
okay, cool. Moving forward, just to plug your Twitter handle again. Let me know by what percentage your Twitter followers increase after this. People are so excited about the SDK. Specifically, I guess Austin is really excited about this. Cool. Like, oh, yes, you also mentioned Truffle VS Code. I want to talk about Dashboard. Dashboard can also be used with the other development environments. I actually haven't tested with Foundry, so maybe not, but Hardhat's pretty easy to configure. You just add in as a network option because it brings it up on localhost 24012. Oh, cool. Let me add this into. You guys
I guess
want
we
to
could have just
see?
done the but yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Because I didn't know how to say that.
Yeah. No problem. No problem.
Can I take a stab at it, Guy? Bibeau.
No, you're
Bibeau.
facing my full name. My full name is Guillaume Bibeau-Laviolette. So I
Oh, so I
won't
had
hold you
Bibeau right.
accountable. Yes,
Yeah.
almost.
Oh.
Very good.
That's why I shortened it.
Cool. So just to touch on, you saw the VS Code extension. I've actually never used JetBrains. I'm assuming you mean like is JetBrains the IntelliJ
Yeah.
like one? And you're talking about the decoder, or sorry, not the decoder, the debugger. I agree with you. I was born on IntelliJ and born on that debugger. So the transition over VS Code debugger was, I mean, it exists. You have to, yeah, but it's really great. I think having the UI. And that's always being improved upon. It is less robust than our CLI debugger right now, but I mean, I think the general trending vibe is like dev tool experience is so important for just building good apps to push forward the power of Web3.
Yeah, and note, JetBrains is the company, but they make things like IntelliJ and WebStorm and PyCharm and these other editors, which are all very similar to each other. So, but a lot of people just say, I use JetBrains. Yeah.
I see. Okay, cool. Austin, will there be another TruffleCon? Thank you so much for that question. I think the answer is probably no, just because the industry is so big and wide, to focus on only one product is a little, it's not in the spirit of Web3 dev tools. I honestly can't answer that, but we will be at DevCon. I will be at ETH Lisbon at the end of October as well. But in general, I think in terms of truffle presence, I'll be floating around. I think ETH Denver might be the next one next year. Also, I live in New York, so if you ever want to talk, I don't actually know where you live. I'm just going to assume everybody lives in New York. That's the thing. Cool. Okay, we went through all the questions. This is really great. We are 36 minutes in, so we can get started on dapp
Yes.
building. This is exciting. So essentially what MetaMask, or I guess you guys aren't the only people in MetaMask, what Guy and Eric prepared was a tutorial that basically takes you through more and more complex steps of building out a UI that leverages the API. So Eric already wrote a tutorial for it. I don't have an external desktop right now, so I'll just be switching between screens and copy pasting code and then making them explain it to me. So if this catches on fire, it's because I don't know, because I didn't.
Our fault.
No, it's not your fault. It's just
we will though. We'll take the blame.
We have water. Don't worry. We're gonna put out the fires.
Okay, cool. So let's get started. I'm gonna share my screen. Please let me know if everyone can see everything.
Looking good.
Okay, cool. So the first thing we're going to do is actually clone the beautiful repo that Guy had created. So let me hide this demo. Okay, so git clone. Sure.
I do also just want to mention that for anybody wishing to do this themselves, there's like a set of instructions that you're going to stumble upon fairly soon. But like this is something people can do at their own pace also if they want to follow like afterwards.
Do you guys want me to post the link in the message? Oh, that's the I can't go to the regular messages, can
I? I can post the link. It's this one, right? This is already live.
Yep.
Yeah, and this will also be published to our Truffle Suite page.
Yeah.
Like we have an Unleashed page with every single episode that we've done and the guides. So be on the lookout for that as well. So this is the MetaMask API intro. What's the base that happens right now? Is it just,
nothing.
Does this even connect? Nothing.
Yes,
okay, cool.
That's your job.
Okay, cool. Nice. So the first thing I guess we're gonna do is this guy, use MetaMask transaction. So I'm gonna copy paste this, and then you guys are gonna explain everything that is happening in this code. Where is my VS Code? Did I open? Oh, I didn't even open that's why. Okay. Cool.
Also, just people can know, this is a Next.js application, so there are caveats to using MetaMask in there. But we'll go over that when we are in the code deeper.
Oh, fancy. There's okay, cool. So it's use MetaMask transaction. So I'll copy paste. Let's start from the top. I guess these are just the actions, right? So pretty much.
So just to give you an overview of what is going on, in a typical dapp, you want to have access to the wallet information at the global level because it is so central to building any Web3 application. So what we've done, even before starting the tutorial, is that we've pre-wired what we call in React a context provider, which is a way to pass on information to all the children components. So this basically, what you're seeing here is the structure that we've created so that people can have access to wallet information globally in the React application. So
I see.
So this is what you're seeing here. This is using purely vanilla React, so there's no external libraries. We are using use reducer. It is not always the favorite hooks that people use, because Redux brings back a lot of bad memories for many people, including me. It is, however, highly readable because everything is well structured. So I do think if you're new to MetaMask, it will be interesting to read through this and see, the step-by-step what is going on and how the state is mutated. So that's the overview of that file, is the context provider and the reducer making this globally available.
Yeah, and you can see at the return right there, we've got the children would be everything basically within your app, and it's wrapped with this context provider that gives the value is the data that is basically the global React state that you might want to have access to in any page, even though I think we're only working with like one page. If you had multiple pages, you could access that state from anywhere and get updates and subscribe to it.
Okay, cool. Since we are looking at code, I probably will take questions in the middle if you guys could monitor the chat and let me know
sure.
if someone is interrupting. Cool. I guess the next piece is to fix this problem, right? So that's like a TypeScript issue, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
This mostly comes from the fact that, TypeScript is aware of vanilla JavaScript. So it knows that there will be a window object, which is the global scope in the browser. However, the way MetaMask works is by injecting a property. So like it creates a property on that window object. So TypeScript itself is just telling you that it doesn't know that Ethereum exists. So what we are having you do here is creating a types declaration file so that we can extend and let TypeScript know that there's going to be something else on the window object that we'll use to interact with MetaMask. This is basically what this file is doing. We're patching TypeScript to know that this is the Metamask SDK. So we can do request, event listeners, and everything you're seeing on the screen right now.
Okay, very cool. Cool, what's the next step? The loading file. We need to create
So we are
this.
constructing the connection. So when users connect their wallet, they will be prompted in MetaMask, as they've probably done if they've used a Web3 application before. So just to make sure that our app is responsive and making sure that the user is not hanging there, not knowing what is happening, we're just gonna create a loader, and to have it in the next step where we're gonna put this loading state.
I see. So this is like flavoring of a good experience.
Yeah, the loader will kind of show up in
Yes.
place of the button text and kind of give you a couple little pulsing dots or something, so that it's like you're interacting with the MetaMask wallet. So until then, I'm just gonna display this thing.
I see. So it's like big brain 20+ years of JavaScript experience manifesting itself in a loading screen. Okay, cool. Next piece is changing this wallet. Go.
Okay, so if you remember at the UI, we had just had a button, right? The button did nothing. It was just you click it and it was just sleeping or something. So what we're doing here is two things. As you see, there's a caveat in the dapp that not everybody's going to have MetaMask installed. So we need to take care of that also. So if you see at line 12, we have the show install button. So inside the reducer, can you hop over to use MetaMask just to cover a little bit what this means? Go to there's a use effect somewhere in there. Just a bit down. Okay, so here we are checking if MetaMask is installed. We have two things to do. We check first of all if that Ethereum object we talked about, if it's defined. If you have MetaMask installed, it will automatically be defined, and it will have also a property saying is MetaMask, which is a Boolean. So what we have done here is just making sure, that people have MetaMask installed. And if they don't, we just present them with a button that links back to installing it so that they can, be a part of Web3. So if you go down a little bit into the React component, do you see there is this show MetaMask a bit at the bottom of your screen, like show install MetaMask? So what we've done here is just, if users don't have MetaMask, we show them like a new button instead of the connection button. And we just take them to the MetaMask website. So just at least, we cover our bases, because that's important to do in Web3. You must take care of a lot of different states. That's what we've done here.
And one thing I would add really quickly is that if you have MetaMask installed and you want to test to make sure that install button, which we forgot to name install, but we do that later. If you want to kind of test that out, you could just disable your MetaMask extension for a moment and see that you would see that connect wallet button with the link over to the download MetaMask would show up rather than the one that actually connects you. So just wanted to throw that in there. Then you could re-enable it
here.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Wait, I just want to cover one more thing about the API.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
Yes.
So
no, don't apologize.
So since we're building, like the connection, let's hop over to this handle connect function. So here, this is the meat of what most people have done. Like this is really the meat of, if you've built an app, you've had to do something like this. Line 16 is, as we said, we're just saying we're in loading state. And then we submit a request to MetaMask to say, I want access to the accounts. So like the dapp is saying to MetaMask, please pop up your user so that they can connect and we can get the information about the user. So that will resolve basically to an array of accounts. So if the user approves, and here for the sake of simplicity, we've assumed the user wants to connect, right? The user could click X and you'd have to recover from that error. So another ninja stuff you need to learn to have a good UX. But just to keep it simple, here, what we're saying at line 21 is if the user approved and gave us like access to their accounts, the first account stored in that array is going to be their active accounts, because you can have multiple addresses in MetaMask. So we are just storing this inside our context. So that's all we're doing here.
Okay, very cool. Can I hop back?
Yes. I do think that's also end of step 1. So like I think now we're able to connect, right?
I think so. Does it hot deploy if I go back, or do I have to
run
redo
npm
it?
run dev now? We can just continue to code and it will update. Maybe hit refresh really. Let's see, is it running? Can you open up your MetaMask?
Oh, open up my MetaMask.
Yeah, so when you had the
oh,
site...
it's because I'm not connected. So I have to connect first.
Well,
weird.
So disconnect real quickly. So click on that and just make sure both of those are disconnected, right? Because we haven't put in all of the functionality yet, right? We're still on step 1. So now click off of MetaMask and hit connect wallet, and it should prompt you open. Now it's going to connect you, right? And in the next few steps, we're going to actually make sure that the UI and the UX is a little bit better.
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Thanks, Eric, for catching this.
Yeah, it was our first mistake, which is great. This is entirely why I planned this. Cool. Now let's use MetaMask API to get the user info. So I'm guessing this is actually displaying information that we can get from your wallet. Okay.
So at this point, we know the user has accepted a connection.
Where's my code?
So Mr. Ryan Price, in this particular example, Mr. Ryan Price says also connected to dapp, check for correct network. we could totally do this for the sake of simplicity, because that's an extra loading step. There's a lot that to put your dapp in the right state. There's a lot to do. So we haven't done the network check in this one, just for the sake of simplicity.
Okay, cool. So I copy pasted, but I think it's probably easier to look at what changed rather than the full VS Code.
Yeah,
Are we
sure.
in agreement? Yes?
Sure.
Maybe? Okay, cool.
That shows so here we're doing something else. We'll get two information from our users, right? We want their wallet address, and we'll do something like getting the balance, just something like to showcase what you can do with the API. So in our action, we're just preparing the way, saying that, okay, we're going to get the balance info. We've changed also our state. Line 22, we're just saying we'll get the balance also inside the state, globally available. What else do we have here?
You removed this context.
I just pushed it down a little bit so that initial state and the typing of the state is more clear, so that they're just close, neatly tucked together.
Oh, it's here. Okay, cool.
Yes.
I see.
And you see the connect action, I think that's the biggest difference. We're just saying the action is going to receive the balance. So we're just connecting the function to the type definition here.
Yep.
Okay, cool. And we move on. Yes?
Yes. Because that's going to be the meat of it after.
Yep.
Okay, cool. I mean, please let me know if you prefer to look at it in VS Code.
Both work. It's just fun exploring anyway.
Okay, this is the wrong one. Here. Okay, wallet is the next change.
Yes. So again, that's another place where we interact. Previously in our Endel Connect, we were just asking for the connection, but now we're going one step further. We are using the method ETH get balance, and that's in the JSON RPC playground we gave you, with two parameters. The first parameter is always the address for which you're requesting the account, and the second parameter is the block. So at which point of the blockchain, you want the balance. Eric, am I mistaken, or this defaults to use the latest block? If I don't put it, I'm never sure.
Yeah, I'm almost positive it defaults to the latest. Yep.
Okay. So yeah, that's the only change we've done, and I think this is just like JSX styling to just show the address, show the balance.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
One thing to note. Okay.
One thing to note, you'll have to disconnect and reconnect because we haven't built the watch for changes yet. So like in the app, you'll need to actually do the same thing, like Eric made you like disconnect and reconnect again for it to show this time.
Oh, because balance is empty right now. So I'll disconnect.
Yeah, let's give it a little refresh after also, just so that we clear our state. And now when you request a connection, you get the balance, not human readable, hexa format, but we're gonna get there later. We're gonna do the finishing touches a bit later.
No, they can't know how much money I have in. Well, it's currently ETH. Actually, you've been seeing my wallet this entire time. What am I even saying?
You should have used your test wallet.
It is my test wallet. Yeah.
Okay,
oh
good,
my god. Cool. Now we're modifying use MetaMask again. So what is the step 3 going to do for us?
So far we've reacted to MetaMask. So like we've got access to reading information, but we've not used the API to, like this API is full, create like CRUD actions. Like it covers mostly everything you can do. So in this extra step, we're going to do the scenario where, let's say you have a token, like you have a token on your website, you're building an exchange or building an NFT mint, and you want people to see the token in their wallet. How would you go about adding this to MetaMask? That your users don't have to find tedious information like the contract address or the image of the token. So that's what we're building in step 3, basically.
Cool.
Yeah, and MetaMask used to make you kind of input all that token information in the UI. Now they have a little bit slicker way of doing that, which I'm very proud of. However, if you want to create the best user experience for your users in your dapp, you want to do this programmatically for them. Like, hey, we're using USDC on this dapp. Make sure you have it. Click here to make to make sure that you can see USDC in your MetaMask.
Oh, I wonder, because if you guys use the Paradigm faucet, they have that exact UX, which is glorious for adding.
It's built on us, so yes.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. I was a good guessing. I was like, I hope it's a MetaMask API. Very good. That's my favorite faucet, by the way. But moving forward, actually stepping into the code. So this is how we have changed use MetaMask. You want to just, it looks pretty straightforward. It's
was
the
this
idle
in step
action.
3?
Yeah.
I forgot why I changed all of that. That's in step 3. Okay, I need more coffee, I think. we can gloss over this. This is just mainly housekeeping. I think I just
see.
cleaned up a little bit.
Okay, cool. And then let's change wallet.
Yes. So the most actually, I prefer to see it in the editor. Actually.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, let's do that.
I love dark mode. I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry too.
Let's go to a little bit down after handle connect. We have another handler called add token. Just a bit down, a bit later.
Handle.
Okay. Oh, handle.
Yes,
okay.
handle had USDC. Yes, that's it.
Okay.
So perfect. So here again, submitting a request to MetaMask using JSON RPC, but this time a more heavy method. This is using the watch asset, so it instructs MetaMask in your wallet to watch for your balance of that asset. So like each block, MetaMask is going to check if there's been a transaction, if something goes in or out. We've picked USDC because that's a safe bet. We don't want to go into any scam coins, so we pick something that the most used ERC20 coin. So this will allow people to click that little button that says really like add USDC to your wallet, as you mentioned. This is how it's constructed. As you see, it's fairly simple.
Okay.
Yeah, so the address is the contract address for USDC. We have the symbol. Decimals is always 18 for these ERC20 coins. And then we are actually giving MetaMask an image to display for that coin as well, which we just grabbed off of some crypto logo site. But you could totally have that in your app as well, like in a file somewhere and give it that. But yeah.
So when Eric coin.
Hopefully I never create a coin. I'd hate to, yeah.
We can
Is there
safely
no
say
Eric
that we
DAO?
both,
I feel like it has to exist, right? I don't know. I feel like there's so many Kevins on the truffle team. It's insane.
We have quite a few Guillaumes too in consensus.
Which one was this? Use MetaMask. Okay. So let's change this. We'll stay in VS Code.
Thank you. So in here, there's often a disconnect button, and I think I hate to spill the beans, but it is not possible to disconnect from a dapp. Only users have the power to disconnect their wallet from a website by going into MetaMask. But it's also like a nice UX feature to let users know that, like I'm not listening anymore to your information. So like what we've done in this last step is to show a way where you can persist the connection into local storage, mostly because if you build a connection, like before copy pasting this, you would go back on the dapp, and if you refresh, everything's lost, which is a really poor user experience. So what we've done, can you search for local storage? Yeah.
This one?
Yes. So there's 2 steps here. So when people connect, what we are doing is just saving the state into local storage. So like in the browser, we we take something that's globally available to any apps, and we say, okay, so this user is connected with that wallet and has that balance in hexadecimal format. And on the contrary, when users disconnect, so like when they click that disconnect button, we cannot do anything as for forcing a disconnection, but we can be responsible and make sure that we don't save that information anymore. So at this point, when the user clicks disconnect, we remove it from local storage and we clean up to have like a nice clean experience for the users. And all of this is wired up reactively. So it updates in the UI, updates in the state, all done automatically.
Yeah, and when we get through this step, we could probably even just kind of test like the whole thing, and you'll see that the user experience has improved quite a bit. Even though there's more things we could do, it's definitely a lot better than like step 2.
Step 1 was my favorite. It was the easiest to understand.
The rest is always, like when you're building a dapp, that's why the SDK is so fun. Oh, why is this happening? I'll just change your file extension to TSX.
And can I just say that, Emily, I want to congratulate you on creating your first custom hook.
Thank you. It's
a big step for React users.
If only I got Eric coin as a reward for every time you finish like I guess it was a Guy tutorial, so
I can send you some BGT tokens, which were our food tokens for ETH Denver last year. You can't really use them for anything, but it's something. It's the only coin I've created.
I remember that. My friend hoarded them, and I'm like, why? They're just never going to be used again. Okay, cool. Use listen.
Yes. So another thing that we must take into account is that users might have multiple wallets. Like you might have your NFT wallet, you might have your checking wallet, I don't know, or your savings wallet. So as users change and they want to transact with your website, you must not assume that they've stayed on the same wallet, that they've connected at the same time. So what we've done here is that we've created a custom hook that you can place in 2 places. It's called use listen. So what it does, it gets, it does the same thing, right? It requests, it looks for accounts change. Sorry, I'm looking for my words. Okay, let me start again. On line 7, we are registering an event listener. So typical stuff in web development, just listening for stuff that happens and reacting to it. So in this case, we're listening to the event accounts changed. So if you go into your MetaMask and you click like the drop down and you select a new account, this is going to trigger that function. And all it does, it gets the balance again, and it resaves it into our state. That's really all we're doing here.
I see. Cool. Is that everything?
No. You'll have to plug it in a couple of places, which I think this code is doing.
Yeah, we have 2 more changes, I think. So now that we've made those changes, we want to update our wallet just to make sure that. Did you already paste it in?
Yeah, I pasted it in.
Cool. All right.
So now we're using, I guess, the hook, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So as typical hook fashion, like typically a hook is going to return like a function or an array of data. So like this use listen returns our listen function, and we can, what we're doing here when the user first connects, we're taking this as a cue for, okay, let's start listening to changes so that we don't clutter the, oh, I forgot one thing in that hook. We don't have a cleanup function. Eric, we forgot this.
Oh, yeah. Do you want to code it now?
Yeah, oh, Emily, do you want to clean up?
Scared.
We made it too easy for you. So,
can you code it and then put it in our Slack message, and then I'll copy paste? No, okay, we can do this together. I'm so embarrassed.
Tell her where to create a new line.
Yes.
Wait, now that I'm thinking of it. Wait, I'm thinking we created a function, but it's not a useEffect. So where are we actually going to clean up? Like, I forgot about this. Maybe we clean up on disconnect. Maybe that would make sense.
Yeah.
So we're, luckily for you, Emily, we're not in too deep into React mode. We're just going to do something similar. So let me just go back into some like older code that I've done to figure out like because I don't remember it on top of my head.
Yeah, neither
One
do
thing I
I.
can add really quickly here is if while he's looking for that, if you want to go back over to your wallet page really quickly, especially if people are not used to using React and used to using hooks, if we go up to where we're actually calling the use listen right here. Okay, so the reason why we created this listener hook is because we had some code that we were reusing and we wanted to co-locate that code, right? And that's a great reason to use a React hook. But all that's really doing is taking some code, putting it somewhere else, and wherever you, on this line 11 right here, we're kind of importing that code, so to speak, and the code from that hook is now part of this component, right? So anywhere you use one of those hooks, you can just think of it as if you had that code right there on line 11, like as if a line 11 had, if you went and copied all the code from the use listen, you could kind of think of it as kind of being all right there on that line 11. Not exactly, but that's pretty much, there's a little bit of change to the code that you would do to kind of put it into a hook. But for the most part, the body of that function that is that hook exists here on line 11 as part of this component.
Is that because JavaScript, or like when you put it up, it like basically puts everything into one file? Is that true? Am I making that up?
In modern context, it doesn't. So like in modern context where you have things like Webpack, Babel, it will split the code into logical parts that we call chunks. So when your browser requests a page, let's say, you just load the what you need for that page. You don't load like the full application. That used to be true like in some days where, you know, you'd have like one big script file that itself is responsible for loading like other small script files. So you'd have it like in one location, you'd have almost everything. That's bad practice though. The less JavaScript you have on your page, the faster your page is. So that's not something we tend to do often. But that to say, we need to remove that event listener, right? That's what we were looking at doing.
Here?
So yes, there's going to be a bit of a challenge. One thing, because to remove the event listener, you need to pass in the handler. So to pass in the handler, we'll need to refactor this into a function inside the hook so that we then pass an object of listen and clean up, or listen and how could we call this? I'm not sure how to call it, but we won't be passing, like, the return value of this is not going to be just a single function. It's going to be an object containing two functions. That's going to be a bit different than what we're doing here. So do you feel like doing it, or do you just want to see like an example in another page where I've done this in a previous project?
I do want to say we are over time. You're not using that as a scapegoat. I mean, I kind of am, but like...
How about this? How about this? We can look at his example, but what Guy and I can do is we can add a step 5 where we refactor this, and I can add it to the guide. And Emily, we can get that over to you so that when you put it on the Truffle site, that it's got the kind of the new improved step number 5, which is the cleanup.
Yes, I like that the best.
And then we could let Guillaume share for a moment and just kind of show what he's talking about.
Okay, cool. So I will stop sharing.
Yeah, nothing super complicated. Accounts change is native to the MM provider. Kariga is asking a question. Eric, do you know if accounts change is also present on other? It is part of JSON RPC, which is standard. So other wallets, I think, implement it similarly, but I'm not sure. Let you answer this one.
So I'm trying to understand what the question is here. When the account changes, are we?
So the method, the event listener account changed. Accounts changed. Is that just a MetaMask thing? From what I know, it works similar with Wallet Connect, from what I remember.
So we definitely have events in, I'm still, let's see. So accounts changed event is native to the, yes. I wouldn't say that it's native to the, to MetaMask itself. Like you said, other wallets do the same thing. Right. Our APIs in MetaMask have these various events in order to, I guess, keep you updated with any changes in the MetaMask wallet. So I think that might answer the question.
Yes.
And yeah.
Is the showing working right now?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
If you could zoom in, it's a little small.
All right.
There we go.
So, like something similar. This is just like another way of writing it. This is using like proxy objects, which is not the same thing as state, but that doesn't matter much. So we have these event handlers, right? And we are registering them in a listen function, really similarly. And then what we are doing is the same thing. So we are removing the event listeners. And passing the same handler. So this is just what we needed to do. But for the time that we have left, which is none, would take a bit too much time to refactor. So we'll do it a bit later on. I just wanted to highlight how it works.
And kind of what, if we can just go over one more time, what the purpose of this cleanup is and where you think we should do it in the app. You were saying on disconnect is probably the best time to do that.
I think so. It's mostly a matter of cleaning up after yourself, not cluttering the event loop in JavaScript. So let's say you do need it as long as the user is connected, right?
Yep.
So you keep it there as long as the user is connected. When the user clicks disconnect, you clear local storage, you remove your listeners, and your app stays performant and is not cluttered.
Just basically erasing the blackboard, so to speak.
Yes, exactly.
Nice.
Another school reference. What was the other one that we had? TypeScript is like a teacher with a ruler standing over you when you mess up. They're like slapping your hand.
Yes.
That makes me like not want to use TypeScript.
I
think it's a bad analogy.
Oh, well, for those of us who get warned by TypeScript all the time, I think it's a great analogy. But yeah, for someone who's not used it yet, it might shy them away from wanting to use it.
Yeah, that's I'm like the
overall.
student who skips school because of this.
But you will develop Stockholm syndrome for that teacher snapping you. Like you will feel lost without it. So
well, maybe she doesn't smack your hand, but she just kind of warns you,
Yeah, guys, I promise I was a good student in school. Whether or not that would happen now as like an adult, I can't say, but
well,
former Emily would be okay with this teacher giving me warnings.
If it was
but anyways,
today, you were a great student, so.
Cool. Let's move on. I don't remember how far we got with talking about the wallet. Was it just the listen part?
Yeah, I think that covers it. Like we talked about cleaning up after listening.
We did not update the index.
Yeah, they're just missing what we would call hydration. So like we have state that is stored into local storage, but our app does need to know about the state.
This index.
Yep.
So we've done this a bit lazily, to be honest. So like in the index page in Next.js, which wraps the whole page that you see, we've added like hydration here. So like we've added a use effect starting at line 11 that will read from local storage and save back into our state, whatever it finds. If you had a bigger dapp in multiple pages, what you would probably do is create a layout component, which would wrap all of your pages with the same use effect so that it runs only once.
Yeah.
And
this is okay for a one-page app, but when you want to start adding more pages to your dapp and more routes to your Next.js app, we're going to need to put a lot of this stuff into a layout component that gets applied to all of those pages.
Yes. Oh, and I'm forgetting one thing that we really need to talk about. The fact that Next.js runs both on a server and on the browser, it means that MetaMask is not always going to be accessible. So if you want all the Next.js performance goodies, you do have more work to put in as a developer so that you make sure window is defined. So what you see at line 12, where it's just a way to know if we're working in a browser or in the context of pre-rendering the application server side. So that's a caveat to using Next.js. It's harder, but you get better UX for your users and better performance in the end.
Yeah. A lot of this stuff would translate very well over to a React app, but leveraging Next.js fully, we would probably want to take these examples a little bit further and take into consideration the idea that you're kind of dealing with server and client all in one project.
Which will be a follow-up eventually, as me and Eric were discussing this morning. We will be making, like, showing more fun examples of, let's say, prefetching data based on local storage and maybe even some cool stuff like React Server components or edge rendering, like some really edgy stuff. Like maybe we'll get there in a future
so
demo
does
or
this
stream
mean
or whatever.
MetaMask will also be starting their weekly live streams, but instead of being about MetaMask, it'll be about Next.js?
No, just the best way to make dapps as fast and
yeah.
performant as you can. We're just here to support people.
I think we're like, we definitely understand that a lot of dapps are created with React, and even more so recently, a lot of people are kind of gravitating towards Next.js. So we want to be able to give the community the best practices and tips and tutorials, maybe starting here and then kind of branching out into other areas and more advanced examples. And hey, maybe even one day, like we revamp all of our docs and have a lot better examples there as well too. Like, who knows?
I think we should have everything working now, right? So like if you do click connect again, you have USDC. Thank you.
I should hide it. Can you delete it? I don't know. So connect, add token, and then
if you do switch wallet, that should work as well. So like if you, let's say, to go to a secondary account within your MetaMask, that should work.
All right.
How do I change?
Yeah, and then you can connect there.
So that worked.
Now your address just changed. Your balance is displayed in a readable format too now.
Oh
yes,
nice.
I forgot. We did this in Vanilla.js, by the way. We didn't use Ethers or Web3.js. Like this is pure JavaScript.
Okay, now it's here. Very cool.
Yes, and you can click disconnect, and this should clear up. There you go.
Nice. Oh well, I guess it still says connected here. Is that?
Yes, this is why we said it's all bells and whistles, because you only, you as the MetaMask wallet owner, can go and click that disconnect button. We can only make our app forget you.
But this is a common pattern that a lot of dapps use, this kind of disconnect button within the app, even though we just tried to caveat that with, hey, look, you're really not disconnected. It's more of just a way of kind of telling your app that you're kind of checking out for the moment.
Nice.
And to, display accordingly in the app.
Okay, if that's it, I guess. Is there anything else you guys want to touch upon with like code wise? Otherwise, I'm going to hop back into the stream.
Just to remind people that this is all available like on GitHub. You can see step 1, 2, 3, 4 detailed in PR per PR. So like if you want to do this on your own.
Yep, that link that she gave out has all the same steps you went through. It's yeah, there you go. Boom.
Boom. I guess
there they can get to the repo, they can get to your Web3 Unleashed, they can get to contacting us, they can see all the PR diffs and everything.
Yeah. Cool. It's not uploaded to our website yet, but it will happen eventually.
Yeah.
And then I guess, Guy, when you put in the 5th step, we will let everyone know. So follow us on Twitter, Truffle Suite. MetaMask Dev is a new handle, correct? Which is fun. Way better than MetaMask. I don't care. No,
less spam.
Less spam. I don't know. There's a reason I work in dev tooling, so it's pretty exciting, like what you can do past like ape into shiz coins. Cool. I don't know if I don't think there was any other questions. So I guess unless you guys have any closing thoughts, I'll just talk about what's next for Web3 Unleashed. Cool. So actually, just going back, what did we do last week? Oh my God, why is my brain like so empty? I'm not sure, but you can look at the website. Upcoming. So if you've been following us for a while, we've gone through like the whole life cycle of the ERC 4907 rentable NFT, from implementing it to writing the smart contracts of a rental marketplace protocol. And the last step is going to be a front end portion for actually interacting with the renting portion.
Nice.
And well, I also had to caveat, I didn't build that myself either, but it's all a learning process for me. I think it's been really helpful with you guys. And the next step was built by one of our front end devs at Truffle. But it's another marriage of the consensus family. If you guys are not familiar, Infura has an NFT API and SDK. I need to check whether or not our Infura representative can actually join, but just kind of a brief like tease. It's just allowing you to query for all the NFTs you own, which is actually really hard without the API. And then SDK is the right side of it. So minting smart contracts without ever having to write Solidity. Which, I mean, as the Truffle developer advocate, I'm like, you're like taking away my job. But that's fine. There are other use cases. But that's next week. And then after that, we'll be talking to Optimism, partnerships, protocol, developer. I'm not sure, but about what it works. And then going through a bridging app, which is really exciting. All of this is on GitHub. There's like a backlog until next year, so I'm not gonna say name every week's episode. But yeah, I guess again, thank you guys so much for joining. This was super fun. I learned a lot. I think seeing all that code is very intimidating.
It's not so
Even
hard once you get the hang of it.
yeah. I mean, I think I like conceptually understand it's just a bunch of div tags, and that shouldn't scare me. But just like the sheer number of lines is like too much. You know.
One thing I would note is that like the way that Guillaume has constructed the context API, the global state in that app is a very good start if you are wondering how to keep your app in sync with the MetaMask wallet state. So like check that out, and then also look for any updates to kind of anything else Guy and I are going to be doing. It'll be following a similar fashion, but kind of building things out a little bit better for bigger, more complex apps.
Okay, cool. Thanks so much for joining again. Have a good day. Guy, as usual, looking very fresh with your hot haircut.
So nice.
Thank you so much.
I get mine done now.
I was 3 months overdue, so I'm happy I did it.
3 months is a really long time.
I'm letting it grow like until shoulders. Like I want the beach bum look.
Nice. I can't wait.
Okay, so I'll join MetaMask. SDK comes again in 3 months, and then we'll see your new fresh look.
And okay. Emily has a nice color job too. Very totally. Nice little. Is that an ombre?
It's not. It's actually half of my hair.
Okay.
So the nice. Top half is all black. The bottom half is purple. Yeah, I mean, so my bottom half grew out faster. But before, I mean, I don't know why this is still in the stream. Whatever. You guys can leave unless you're interested in the history of my hair. Yeah, it was like a huge TikTok trend, and I felt like I wanted to feel younger. So, I mean, that's part of the reason I did it. And the second piece is when I first dyed it, it was completely hidden by my black hair. So until I was ready to admit to my mom I had done this to her, like she would not know. So yeah, I guess the tips and tricks for hiding dyed hair from conservative family members. Yeah, I guess audience poll maybe. Leave it in the comments. People have suggested dyeing it teal for like truffle representation.
Yeah,
don't know how I feel about teal hair, but it might happen.
I like the
maybe 3 months from now, with Guy and his long hair, and Eric with. I don't know if you're going to do anything fresh, but
I'm probably not going to dye it for sure.
No, it's good. Okay, cool. Again, thanks so much, guys. Happy
everybody.
Thursday. Yeah, we'll
Thank
see
you.
you. Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.